What's the most NSFW thing you've seen happen in a workplace? We had a male call center manager that was banging girls in exchange for better schedules. This was happening on an empty floors bathroom in our building. During the same couple of years, the male sales manager was banging dudes in the same bathroom. I still wonder if they had any scheduling conflicts. Guy took a from a 100 lattice tower. When you hear laying hot asphalt from a lineman, you scatter lol. What the kind of bird was that? I walked in on two co-workers having The guy just said hey, what's up? Like it was nothing. Sadly it didn't work out for them. He pulled a gun on her in the parking lot a few months later. Honorable mention to the time I caught an employee getting fingered by a customer in a stairwell. I'm pretty sure I just got whiplash from that sudden turn of events. The HR woman at an old job I worked once cornered me to tell me all about her 14-year-old's how big it is, and how many times it's been within kissing distance of her mouth. She was telling this story very, very fondly. Turns out I'm not the only one she told, and she ended up fired a few days later. All locks needed to be changed at the office, and we had armed security patrolling outside for a little bit because apparently the husband was a little crazy too. I guess I heard that instead of saw it, though. How does one bring up their son's size naturally in a workplace conversation? Mr. Donner was insisting the reports get finished a day earlier, so we really need to buckle down and get on it. My son is 14 and his is wonderful. A bonding day for the entire production staff. It's basically 4 to 6 hours at a hotel with access to the pool, gym, sports fields and a few organized activities that are aimed to raise morale. Now you're not supposed to bring alcohol. In fact it's technically forbidden. But as long as you're not a complete moron, the management look the other way. Walk into a toilet to see 1 woman and 3 guys going at it. It was definitely consensual. I wasn't the first to see it and wasn't the last too drunk to realize that they should probably lock the door at least. Management looked the other way. Bonding. The D is silent. One of my coworkers loved to wear miniskirts and go commando. I know this because our cubicle desks didn't have vanity panels, and her desk faced mine across an aisle. I didn't spend my time trying to look, mind you. But when she got on her hands and knees one day to check the wiring on her PC, it was hard not to notice. She was also either a natural redhead, or very thorough. I can't tell you how many I had to break up at the movie theater. I cleaned pools over the summer, and apparently the client didn't tell their teenage son we were coming because when we got there we found him asleep by the pool, naked with a little I have never seen someone run inside faster. You saved him from a horrific sunburn, honestly. Work in a kitchen that is connected to a bar. 2 customers once started going at it in the ladies' room stall. The kicker? The stall was locked shut, so they had to crawl under it to get inside. Crawling on the bathroom floor instead of going to the car. That's devotion. Crawling on a bar bathroom floor? In a stall that is closed. Probably because something inside is broken? That's devotion indeed. I worked in a cemetery for years. I remember one of the funeral directors was banging a receptionist, and one night she met him out in the wall crypts and the security guard caught them with my homie's pants down. NSFW and hilarious. Side note. He was engaged to somebody else who worked there. The fireworks were legendary. Do tell. He bribed the security guard not to tell, but his GF eventually found out. She wasn't really big on self-esteem and forgave him. But one day the receptionist said good morning to her and the GF basically told her in the middle of the lobby, "Don't you ever look at me in my eyes or I'll rip yours out." My buddy found out the receptionist was also hooking up with a few other guys working there as well. He went berserk and went around hunting people down, asking them, "Are you seeing receptionist? I am hitting that. Back off," and everyone was like, "Wait, aren't you engaged to man? Don't bring her up." We had a row of 10 or so porta-potties that started swaying uncontrollably. Turns out a couple decided that a porta-potty is a discreet place to hook up. I don't even want to use a porta-potty for its intended purpose. I used to work in one of the largest leather stores in the world. The kind that sells toys. 2. The sales floor staff frequently had with customers in the dressing rooms, and occasionally on the sales floor. It was encouraged by management. Worked in telemarketing. Saw way too much. People rolling blunts, snorting lines, One guy whipped his out, did the helicopter dance and then acted confused when he was fired. The worst had to be the 60-plus-year-old lady getting caught jerking off her 60-plus-year-old cubicle mate. Friend was a plumber. He was installing a water heater in the roof with his assistant. He was in the roof and the assistant was fetching him tools and passing them up the ladder. After a while he asked his assistant for something and realized he wasn't there. So he climbed down the ladder to see where he was. Found him the homeowner's maid on the kitchen table. They'd just met about 1 hour earlier. The old laying the pipe routine. Use your number 2 spanner. The head chef brought a big fuck-off bag of magic mushrooms. We're talking large grocery bag here, and handed them out to all the staff. He had cancer and he was good friends with the owner and did not give a single f***. That was a magical night for staff and probably downright surreal for the diners. I was at my old job and I went to the bathroom. I open a stall, and the toilet is literally filled with blood. But you see, the kicker is I was in the men's bathroom. I worked at a Nissan dealership located at a busy intersection in my city back in the early 2000s. One of the younger car salesmen was trying to sell a new car to a woman who looked to be in her 40s. It was going well. They were working on closing the deal. So I take a break and walk to the back car lot for a smoke to find the salesman wedged between 2 cars amongst a row of cars with the woman he was selling a car to on her knees giving him a I was in complete shock. She never stopped and he just smiled and gave me a thumbs up. I am a 36 years old female and still think of this one often enough. The amount of people who shit on the floor in a store is unreal. I'm perfectly okay with not being in retail anymore. Work in a hospital. Had a patient come in for vaginal pain. Worked her up and positioned her in the stirrups so the doctor could come in and do a quick pelvic exam. Right after I did that, a critical patient came in that required the doc's attention for a while. After about 20 minutes I went back into the pelvic exam patient's room to apologize for the wait and put the stirrups back down so she could lay normally until the doctor had time to examine her. I walked into her boyfriend on his knees in front of her eating her out. Asked him what the hell he was doing and he told me he just couldn't resist with her in that position. I escorted him to the waiting room and told security he wasn't allowed back in. I'm a teacher and one day walking past the headmaster office I heard some very distinctive moans. Well, if they're the headmaster it's bound to be good. Walked in on my boss boning the HR director in his office. My next review and raise were the best I ever had. Does seeing yourself in the mirror count? Because I used to smoke shards in the disabled toilets at my old job. Clean now for 6 months. I highly recommend not doing meth, it's not so great for your life. We caught a 60-year-old rich, married, white lady, blowing a homeless guy in our bathroom during Fantasy Fest, while her husband waited outside. In her defense, I don't think she knew he was homeless. This coworker was really into me, I just didn't like her like that, but I guess she got desperate so she goes to where I'm working in the building and she literally just flashes her tits in front of me in the middle of the day and walks away. I managed a bar 2 years ago. I had this girl that bartended for me who would go missing on camera all the time. I had them cameras everywhere inside. She'd just disappear for half an hour at a time. I investigated. I was pretty close with a lot of the regulars, small, family-owned place in a suburb, and came to find out that she had been, offering for money, soliciting from behind my bar. She was gone shortly thereafter. I couldn't fire her for something that I couldn't prove. I ended up letting her go for neglecting to fulfill her duties as a bartender. She was written up for multiple occasions of leaving the bar customers unattended, and that was enough to get her the hell out. I don't know if that could somehow fall back on me, or the bar, but I was not interested in finding out. Worked in an emergency room, and I can tell you that a good number of the nurses and paramedics were having affairs and just having rampant with each other. I remember one specific time walking by a patient room and just hearing sounds. A few minutes later, a disheveled nurse and firefighter came strolling back to the nurse's station. I work from home, so lots of chick I worked with showed us her. That was pretty nice of her. Today I learned I have a boring but safe workplace. Worked at a place that had a boardroom that overlooked the factory. The boardroom windows were covered in mirror vinyl, and usually it's brighter in the factory than the boardroom, so you can't see in from the factory. After work it's getting dark, so the lights in the boardroom are brighter than the factory, so the effect is reversed and you can see everything in the boardroom from the factory but can't see the factory from inside the boardroom. That's when the CEO walks into the boardroom and the receptionist on the boardroom table with a whole bunch of factory workers watching.